Daniel Craig's second outing as James Bond was all about unfinished business. In Casino Royale, we saw him as this blunt instrument that MI6 pointed in the right direction, and this was mirrored by his evolution of starting with his Planet Ocean to eventually donning the Seamaster 300M as he put on the tux towards the end of the movie. But Quantum of Solace was a movie that leaned much more into the aggressive side of Daniel Craig's James Bond, so he needed a watch that could match that. Hi everyone and welcome to Shaluso, and yes, today we are talking about the watch that Daniel Craig wore as James Bond in 2008's Quantum of Solace. Now, Quantum of Solace leaned a lot more into the rougher, more brutish side of James Bond that we hadn't really seen in the past. So this meant dropping the Seamaster 300M altogether and going back to the Planet Ocean that he started the previous film with. However, in Quantum of Solace, they made the addition of a bracelet, meaning something much more solid, much more rugged, and this reflected the character throughout the movie as well. But focusing on the watch itself, it's a 42mm Planet Ocean, still with that highly legible dial and 600 meters of water resistance with a helium escape valve. So something much more purposeful, much more tooly. It goes completely against what we see with the 300M, which is a watch that, while still a very competent diver, is able to double as a dress watch. On the other hand, the Planet Ocean goes all out on being a dive watch, and hence the higher depth rating as well as the bigger, chunkier, more rugged features. Now, this older Planet Ocean is still actually thinner than the modern ones, and that's courtesy of the movement on the inside. We need to remember this was still the early 2000s, so they weren't using the in-house movements. Instead, they were still using the Omega Calibre 2500. This, also found in the Seamaster 300M of the time, was an ETA 2892 modified to have Omega's Co-Axial Escapement. So it was a much thinner movement than the current Omega in-house one, and this translated to only 14.5mm thick on the case itself. It also has relatively short lugs, which means that despite being a big watch, it's still one that can wear quite comfortably on medium to even small-sized wrists. And this versatility is one of the biggest advantages to the older Planet Oceans compared to the newer ones, is that they're thinner, and having a 42mm option instead of just the 43.5, it does allow a little bit more flexibility when you're looking at the sizing. Moving on to the bracelet, it features the old Omega dive extension clasp, which again was also featured on the 300M of the time, and it was the first time we were introduced on screen to the Planet Ocean with a bracelet. Now, the Planet Ocean bracelet, I would describe it as a Rolex President bracelet on steroids. It's much rounder than an oyster, but it's kind of like a President one has been pumped up a little bit. And this, I think, is in keeping with Daniel Craig's James Bond of the time as well. It's this character, James Bond, that's in a suit, but he's been bulked up. And this, again, is perfect casting when you consider the watch for where the character was at in the movie. You see him in much more informal, functional wear, and this reflects in his choice of watch. In this, he was going back to his base instincts, being much more aggressive, and this watch accompanied him through it. The idea was that this is a much rougher Bond than the sophisticated suave Pierce Brosnan that donned the 300M. And what's great is that we see how the Planet Ocean evolves throughout all of the Daniel Craig movies, along with the character as well. In later movies, we see him don other watches that reflect this evolution, but this was the perfect representation for the time. As a watch itself, it offers a great introduction into the Planet Ocean line because you still get all of the benefits of the Planet Ocean, that being the huge water resistance, the helium escape valve, the looks that echo the older Seamasters but still looks like a profoundly modern watch, and you get an amazing bezel action that's much easier to move compared to the Seamaster 300M, which I actually used to own. On the wrist, it still remains comfortable, but it is definitely a tool watch, an informal watch. This isn't really a watch that would make a lot of sense with a suit, and that's why in later movies we see Daniel Craig also start to use an Aquaterra instead of just the Planet Ocean, as he evolves into a little bit more of the suit James Bond instead of the brute James Bond. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this particular watch and its position in Quantum of Solace? Do you think that this was the ideal watch for Daniel Craig's James Bond in this particular movie, in his character arc? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, if you like this video, then make sure you like it and share it. If you want to see more videos about watches, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell as well so you know when the next video comes out. If If you want to see more pictures and infographics of watches as seen throughout this and all of my other videos, then make sure you follow me on Instagram at Shaluso. And if you want to see some more Omega content, then make sure you check out the Omega playlist as well. But thank you for joining me on this quick exploration of the Omega Planet Ocean featured throughout Quantum of Solace, and we'll catch you on the next video.